Hi everyone. Today for our class we're going to continue with exploring Excel a little bit. We're going to do something quite simple but actually very useful. We're going to basically create a budget system to help us keep track of whether we're spending too much money. So you're going to create what I got on the screen at the moment. What we have is a situation where you can put in how much you are earning a week. Earning can, of course, come from any source. It could be actual earning from a part-time job, or it might be what we consider the money that our parents give us for work we do at home, or if we're really lucky, just an amount mum and dad give us anyway. Our expenses is going to be what we have to pay for. Often, when you're given money, even if it is coming from mum and dad, there's still conditions on that you have to pay for certain things. And our balance will be what we have left over, or possibly if we don't have enough money. So underneath that, we have our weekly expenses. And we're listing the name of the expense, how much it costs us in the week, and we've also got a spot here for some notes. And the notes are important because not everything is always a weekly amount. So for example, the school lunches, it is a weekly amount, but we've said that we're spending $5 a day. Our mobile phone, we don't pay for it weekly, but we're paying $50 a month. So the notes are important to help us with information that might be about where this weekly amount comes from, or a little bit more about what it represents. So we've got this bus ticket here, which is an annual amount. We pay for it each year, and it's going to cost $120. So we've worked that out to be $10 per week. Of course, I've just realized that is wrong. So let's not worry about that for the moment for the sake of this video, but we'll fix that up in the actual one that we do in just a second. So basically, when we work out this expenses, we need to get the total amount of this and bring it up to the expenses, and then we basically need to see whether these two values are bigger or smaller than each other to work out the balance. Okay, so your job today is to try and make this. So if you'd like a little bit of a challenge, and it's not a big one, I suggest pausing this video now and going off and trying to make this. You can use exactly the same details if you like, to start with at least, to get it working. And then if you want to, you can, of course, put your own expenses in or change them and try it out for yourself. But basically, have a go at making it first. And if you struggle or you need some help, in just a second, I'll go through how to make this. But I suggest giving it a go for yourself first. Okay, if you're here, it's because you want to have a look at how we can actually put this together. So what I have on the screen at the moment is just the text written out. So I've written my weekly budget summary title here. I've got the titles for each of the three values here. My expenses title, the titles of the tables, if you like, the different expenses that I've chosen to use, the amount just typed in as a number at the moment, and the notes written in. Now, these notes have the dollar signs in, but that's just been typed in because these are just text. So far, there are no formulas and no formatting on this table. So let's start with the formatting. So one of the things I will usually do if I'm doing a title or titles above headings or headings sort of things is I'll usually make those spread across the width of whatever they represent. So this weekly budget summary at the top is the title for this whole table. If you think about it, this is the space that this table is taking up. So I'm going to highlight across to column D, and that would be what I consider the whole table. And I tend to center and merge these cells together. So at the moment, this title is going across columns A and B because of the way Excel shows text if there's nothing next to it. But if I was to go to column B and just put something in, you can see that the title is now being cut off. It doesn't overlap it. But what I want is that to actually sit nice and centrally across that. So there's a built-in tool up the top in the home menu, if you're somewhere else at the moment, which is called Merge and Center. And if you're using a Windows version of Excel, it might be in a slightly different physical location, still on the home menu, but might not be sitting right here in the middle, but you'll be able to see Merge and Center. And by clicking on that, what it does is it merges all the cells you had selected into one. So you can see how this is highlighting right around the whole box now. It's one cell, and it's also centered my text. And I find that really, really useful to help define areas. So I'm going to do the same thing with this weekly expenses title, where I'm going to merge and center that. The other thing you might notice from the sample I did is I changed the color of this new big cell to make it stand out, and I just simply did that with the fill button. Again, in the home menu, filling in the text, and I think I used a green color. With weekly expenses, I did the same. I filled that with a color, and I used a kind of reddish color to represent expense. Expenses are usually things where you take money away, are usually considered to be red. I didn't want to go bright red, so I just went with a sort of slightly red color. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to center these headings. Not a merge and center because I don't want them to become one space, but I'm just going to use the normal centering for fonts, very much like in Word, just to put those in the center. And I'm also going to fill those in to represent them as headings, and I tend to use a lightish sort of grey colour. Don't want to go too dark because it makes it hard to read the text. Of course, you could change the text colour, but I normally go with one of these sort of mid-grey tones for headings of columns. It can be just personal preference, but that's what I like to do. Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, again, just formatting, is I'm going to make this first column a bit wider so that these names still show up properly. And to change the width of a column, you simply come up to the column headings, so the ABCs, not the column heading like name here, but the overall column, and you move your mouse in between the columns. So you can see as I move my mouse towards between, my cursor is changing to this cursor at the moment. If I click and hold there, I can now drag the cursor across, and as long as I hold down my mouse, I'm adjusting the column width. So I'm going to make it just a bit wider to give myself a bit more space for the name of my expense. Now, obviously that affects the whole column. So if you didn't want this space to get bigger, then that might be a problem, but I do want a bit more space here, and that's fine. I'm happy with that. A couple more things to modify for formatting is I want these numbers here, my expenses, to show as a dollar amount. So I could sit there and type the $ in, but there's two reasons I won't. Number one, it's a waste of time. And number two, it can affect the formulas later on when I want to use these. Because what I really want is I want each of these cells to have a number in them. I don't want them to be text with a $ in them. But I want to see the $. So the simplest thing here is to format the cell to show its content in a certain way. So if I highlight them as I've just done, and I again come up to the home menu, and I find these buttons here, I can click on the $ symbol. Now, if I notice there's also a drop down here, there are other types of currency. So what I'm doing, English Australian, English United States would also be the same. But if I was in America or Europe, if I was in Europe, I would maybe use the euro symbol. But basically, I'm going to show these as currency. So when I choose that button, you'll notice that my cells now show as dollars. So it has the decimal point, it has the two decimal places, that has the currency symbol, $ in our case. But if I click on the cell and look up to my formula bar, there's no $, it's just the number 25. There's not even decimal points. It is just taking the value that's actually in the cell and showing it in the correct format for currency, which means I get the look that I want without changing the content, which means my formulas will still work. And that's really, really important. If I don't want the dollar sign anymore, I can choose to take it away. I can do things like just go to comma style, which is traditional numbers. So you can see the dollar sign went away, but the decimals have stayed. Still not actually changing the value up here. It's just showing it. And I can change how many decimal places I want to have. All right, if I want to show it as a percentage, I've also got a quick button there to do a quick way of showing a percentage amount. Okay, and you can customize and build your own versions of these. That's what this custom at the top does. But let's just stick with our dollars for this example. Okay, that's most of the customizations for look that we want, except we also want to do the same thing with the expenses, with the dollars for these three values, because they're also going to be money amounts. So this cell here is where I'm going to put in how much income I get. So I'm going to format that to be dollars. So again, nothing's changed, but I have clicked on it. Expenses, I'm going to click on dollars as well. And my balance is also going to be a dollar amount. Okay, let's get started then. So income is simply going to be a number we type in. So we're pretending that we're getting $100 per week. So let's put that in. And as I pressed enter, notice that it's showing it as a dollar amount formatted for dollars because I chose that option just before. Now, my expenses is going to be my first formula. If I think about it, my expenses for the week is going to be everything that we added up down here. Now, we haven't got a total here, but we're going to put our total actually in this space directly. So to get a total of these, if I asked you to do this on paper, you would add these up. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to put the formula in for sum. Summing formula being one that lets you easily add up a value, or so values in a range. So we're going to start the formula, of course, with equals, and the formula is sum. It needs a bracket. And then we basically click and hold our mouse on our first item and drag it over all the items we want to add up, let go, and close off our bracket. And as soon as we press enter, we will get a total of those amounts. So our total expenses, as listed down the bottom here, come to $61.75 per week. For those people who are paying a lot of attention, you'll notice I have fixed up my weekly amount for my annual bus ticket from earlier. When I originally did in the example, I did the 120, and for some reason I was just thinking of months, but we're talking weekly here, so I should have divided 120 by 52, not by 12. And I have rounded it off a little bit here just to make it a nice even number. Let's continue. So we now have our income and we have the expenses. So we need to find out what our balance is, what we have left over. So again, just think about how would you do that normally on paper? Well, you take what you got and then you take away what you have to pay. So we're going to do that simple formula here. So we're going to say equal to what we've got, take away what we're paying. Press enter, and there is our balance, $38.25. So this budgeting now says to us that out of the amount that we get given or the amount that we earn, whichever way it's happening, if these were our expenses that we have to pay, we should have $38.25 roughly, left over at the end of every week, which would mean we could do some great savings. What would happen though if we have more expenses, or maybe we don't earn as much? So let's have a look at what it looks like if we said no, we only get given $50 in a week. We've still got the same expenses. What happens? Well, our balance now has changed and it's put brackets around it. And that is the default way in Excel to show a negative amount in an equation like this. So what this now tells us is that we will actually be short of $11.75 each week if we are still trying to pay each of these things. So that would mean that we don't have enough money, and somehow we're going to have to either earn more money or get more money, or reduce our expenses. So if we looked at this, what would be something that we could maybe reduce? So we might say, okay, maybe we won't buy lunch every day and we can make lunch at home, or maybe we have to reduce our Xbox account from $60 a month in some ways. If we just stopped going to the movies, then that wouldn't be enough to fix up the balance. And we might say, well, we can't live without our phone, and we can't not have our bus pass for the year because we can't get to and from school. So we can't get rid of these ones, but what can we do about the others? So that would allow you to then make some informed decisions about what you might need to change in your life so that you can afford to do the things that you want to do, or know how much you have to work. So have a go if you didn't do it yourself, or if you've now seen something that changes the way you did it. Feel free to modify, and of course save it and send it in as a submission on Schoolbox.